Welcome to the presentation and discussion on the collaboration between the Naked Watchmaker and Frédérique Constant, and of course the beautiful watch, the classics Perpetual calendar, that was born through this collaboration. So let me introduce you to the participants. So first of all, Daniela Marin and Peter Speak, so both veterans of the watch industry, co-founders of the watch brand that holds their name, Speak Marin, but also creators of the Naked Watchmaker educational website that has for objective to continue the articles that you both started writing back in the mid-1990s. I'm also here with Niels Eggerding, so Managing Director of Frédérique Constant, in the company for over 10 years now. Under his leadership, the brand has also innovated a lot and launched many new movements. So welcome, Niels, as well. So let's start and speak a little bit about the Naked Watchmaker. So Daniela, may I ask you maybe to explain a little bit how the Naked Watchmaker started and what the objective of the Naked Watchmaker is?
Of course. So the Naked Watchmaker really was a natural progression from the moment that we had both left the company. And the idea was to continue, as you said, the articles that we had started with the change of technology that has happened since those years. This was a great opportunity to continue to share the passion and the knowledge we have gained, and to do that now with a global audience.
Nice opportunity indeed, and great to be able to continue that. Could you maybe tell us a little bit more about the deconstructions?
So the deconstructions are basically our insight into a particular timepiece. They allow us to look at the watch from the inside out, from a purely technical perspective, from a neutral perspective.
Basically, a deconstruction is we enter into different companies, often select a timepiece with the company, and then photograph it and film it as we are deconstructing it, as we are taking it apart. And then we reveal all of the different elements that go into making each timepiece, explaining all the functions as we advance the process in a completely objective fashion.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. I love seeing all of those. And what about the articles then? So that was really the basis that you started in the mid-90s. So where are you?
Absolutely the origins of the whole concept, which is when Peter was working in restoration.
Yeah, I worked for a company called Somlo Antiques about 100 years ago. And I was always aware that it was a great privilege to restore incredible historical timepieces. But I was also aware that I saw things that other people would never see. So I started to photograph them. And then I would write up basic texts, but I'm not a writer. Daniela is much more competent in that area. So then she would then take the material and make it into English and not Peter's technical language. And then it would be published in magazines like International Wristwatch and the BHI Journal at that period in time.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for bringing all that insight to us. Obviously, extremely interesting and valuable. We have the great honor and chance to be with Niels Eggerding here today. So Niels, could you speak to us a little bit more about the Frédérique Constant history and mission?
Sure, I will. Well, first of all, thank you for collaborating, because we have a great project together. So it all started almost 35 years ago. Born from a passion also, from a Dutch couple, Peter and Letta Stas, that had the idea really to create a beautiful finished watch, but for an accessible price. At that time, it didn't exist. You had beautiful brands that offered a beautiful watch, but mostly very high priced. And that was the mission was born, let more people enjoy luxury. And they started in 88, and they started actually from expatriate being in Hong Kong, moved very quickly to Geneva, and in 2004, they started their own manufacture complication. So, and since then, you can see clearly that we have a rhythm of introductions of own movements, that really has a special value, but exactly on par with the accessible luxury segment.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the innovation side, the development of the movement, and then more particularly about the perpetual calendar?
Yeah, so being 35 years young, it's relatively young because you compete with giants that exist between 150 and 200 years. So the aim was by preparing your own manufacturer caliber, by really pushing the limits. We're the only one in our price segment who is doing this in an accessible price range. Some brands do it, but not the way we do it. We do it large scale. That allows us also to keep the price accessible. The last 10 years, we really have been accelerating. We started 10 years ago with the Will Timer, that by now is one of the most iconic manufacturer calibers we have. 2017, I quickly jumped to the Perpetual calendar. After that, we followed with the Perpetual calendar Tourbillon, that is really more high-end finished. And especially the Perpetual calendar, the first year we launched for a price close to €8,000 was unique. The nearest competition is 25, 30,000 euro. And we were able to produce that year more than 2,000 units. And that large-scale production helps us to keep the price still very accessible.
Great. Well, quite unique indeed, and very successful. So thank you for sharing, Niels. So we're here today, of course, to speak about the collaboration. Peter, could you tell us maybe a little bit more about how you met Frédérique Constant and how you chose Frédérique Constant to create this first collaboration into a product?
As I mentioned, the goal of the Naked Watchmaker is to take apart different timepieces, photograph them, and share them with the outside world. And Frédérique Constant was one of those companies that Daniela had approached and were open to actually revealing their secrets found within the timepieces, which is not always an obvious thing, because not every company is that flexible and that open to let external people in and then dismantle their watches. So this was the way that we actually started the project, by getting to know the original Quantium Perpetual.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Niels, so what is your view on the collaboration, and how did you get also to collaborate with Daniela Marin and Peter Speak with the Naked Watchmaker?
Now, besides that, both Daniela and Peter are very skilled and knowledgeable about watchmaking. We are born by collaboration. From the supplier side, by innovating, we constantly have been innovating by collaborations, to the retail collaborations. And now especially these kind of collaborations, for me, is really an added value for them, but also for us. Because the know-how that Peter has from the technical point of view brings really the brand up with their followers they have. So you bring those together, both worlds together, and you really drive more awareness. So I'm very happy with this collaboration.
Great, thank you very much. It's indeed great to see the product like the Quantum Perpetual being seen by through your eyes, obviously. Why did you choose the Quantum Perpetual?
So when we executed the original example, everything is hidden. It was a very classical execution. The module with all of the levers, the wheels and the springs is hidden under a flat dial. And when I took the dial off, took the hands off, took the dial off, and then I saw what was basically hidden underneath, it was the same kind of motivation as when I first restored watches back in London. This desire to be able to take what is hidden and show it to the outside world. So that was then the catalyst to the idea of then actually taking it to another level and actually modifying an existing watch and then really manifesting what we saw in a new type of product.
Great, yeah, well, very interesting. It seems like a reasonable choice indeed. So then we can of course speak more about the product and what details have been changed by yourselves. Great, so yeah, thank you for that insight, and thank you Niels also for coming in and participating and for your insights.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.
Great pleasure.
Diana.
Thank you.
very much.
So now let's speak about this beautiful watch. And for this, let me welcome Roland Pell here. So Watchmaker Complication, representing the technical side of Frédérique
Yes.
Constant. So welcome. Please sit down. So wow, what a beautiful watch we have here.
It is,
So
huh?
the Perpetual calendar by the Naked Watchmaker, Frédérique Constant. So maybe before we go into the details and the technical details about the Naked Watchmaker version, maybe Roland, could you speak to us a little bit more about the original Perpetual calendar designed by Frédérique Constant?
Yeah, of course. With our perpetual calendar, it really started with the dial, because most of the perpetual calendars, they're a bit centered. So we wanted to spread it out more evenly. So the subdials are more evenly spread over the dial. So we started with that. And we could make it a bit more accessible by using an already existing manufacturer caliber, which we had. And we mounted on top a module, which has completely simplified. So we removed all the unnecessary springs and wheels. And what was left was a super solid module for a perpetual calendar. I think you know better. You dismantled it as well. So no, I think it's a perpetual calendar we can be really proud of, especially for this price, with this kind of finishing, and especially this one even more.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's indeed the original version of the Perpetual calendar by Frédérique Constant is very nicely balanced. And then indeed the module development is very interesting as well. But yeah, Peter, maybe could you explain why you chose the Perpetual calendar to make this beautiful version of it?
When we did the original deconstruction, the dial, it was a very classic dial, everything was flat. And by selecting this particular model or this particular watch, it enabled us to be able to cut away, to be able to really air and show the mechanics that are found within the watch, conventionally hidden. And that had to really be a complicated timepiece. And this kind of asked for that to happen because there is so much actually going on which was hidden underneath the dial.
Okay. So when we look at this beautiful piece here, you can really see that you managed to give a third dimension to it, really a third dimensionality. Could you maybe explain how you've managed to do that?
So the 3D effect is kind of like automatic. It's kind of like something which happens as part of the process. But one of the advantages of the particular model, is that there was a huge amount of space between the dial and the inside of the sapphire. So it meant that we could actually make the dial thicker, cut it away, add extra levels to it, which have impacted the mechanics of it, to really give more depth to the overall watch.
Yeah, it looks really nice. It indeed gives nice depth to it. And then also you've modified the subdials. So how did you do that?
We kind of changed everything in a sense, very subtle. But one of the things that we wanted to do to be aligned with the Naked Watcher mandate is to be able to show people the inside of the watch. So we opened up all of the subtitles, made them larger so that you can see the interior of the piece, but at the same time try to simplify certain elements so as not to confuse things.
What about the moon phase first?
So it's no longer a moon phase. Moon phases traditionally rotate the wheel rotates once every 59 days, and you only conventionally see a single moon. Here you see both. And one of the things that we wanted to do, apart from like opening up and showing people the mechanics of a watch, and that's part of it, is the moon phase really becomes like an animation showing the passage of time. So as the watch works, the moon wheel is slowly rotating, and it gives another dimension to the timepiece, which you don't conventionally see.
Yeah, very, very interesting indeed. Looks nice actually like that, to be able to to watch time pass.
It's pure.
It's very very pure indeed. Now, one of the most interesting parts, I would say, and also, of course, the main feature of a perpetual calendar, as its name indicates. How did you modify and how did you develop the perpetual calendar indicator?
So, for anybody watching who isn't aware, a perpetual calendar is a mechanical mechanism which corrects not only for the length of each varying month, but also for leap years. And quite often when you have the leap year indicator, you have an additional hand which then points to the leap year when you hit it. With this particular model, what we did was instead of having a hand on top, we added a disc underneath the dial, which increased the thickness of the dial, which is part of what made this three-dimensionality of the watch. And then you have a disc with 4 colors, white, yellow, black, and red. Each one indicates a different year, and the red indicates the leap year. And that can be seen through a tiny little circular window on February, or at February. So that meant that it's quite conservative. It's actually quite original, I think, as well, as a means to be able to tell what year you're on. And it means that you reduce the clutter on the dial. So you only have a single hand, which then points to each month.
Very nice, yeah. Really nice way to nice way to show it. Maybe the hands also. I think that I can see that you've really fully redesigned the hands on the watch.
Well, we wanted to, again, the mandate is to try to be able to show the mechanism, but also to be able to make sure that the watch is still readable. You can actually use it. It's an instrument at the end of the day. So the hands are skeletonized. They're quite large, which allows you to be able to see through them, to see the mechanism. But the white hands contrasting against the brown means that it is still incredibly easy to read, which ultimately is the goal of every timepiece.
Excellent. Now, another question I have is also the choice of colors. So you chose maybe first the blue for the bridges.
Blue in watchmaking goes back a long way. It's a very traditional color. Blue screws are something which have existed for forever. So as a result, blue is watchmaking, it is horology. So I made the module main plate in blue, which then allowed, so the blue is the association to watchmaking, but what it did was it allowed the levers, the springs, the wheels, all which are either in yellow or in steel, to be able to be contrasted to pop, so that you can actually see all these different elements. Otherwise, the original module, as is the case with most quantum perpetuals, are rhodium plated. And when you have rhodium with steel, there is no strong contrast. And that was the goal, to really be able to enhance this contrast and make all the components within the module jump out.
Yeah, great. And finally, the choice of brown, also quite unique.
The dial, in order to be able to really be visible, was more visible if we had white references, white numbers, white indications on a dark background. Had to be different from the blue, otherwise it would become confusing. So the brown for me was something which was kind of associated with vintage timepieces, and it would also associate with the strap. So it's a simple thing, it's a purely aesthetic thing to a large degree, but you combine the two together and you end up having a very classical influenced timepiece. And that was really our goal from the beginning, to execute a naked watchmaker timepiece whilst actually almost kind of paying homage to the history of watchmaking.
Yeah, looks fantastic. And one more question, what about the Luminova? Because you've also added Luminova to this watch.
Again, with the naked watchmaker, everything that we do is about education. Luminova is something which is another element, it's a small element, but it's another part of what makes watchmaking watchmaking. It's a functional aspect. The moon phase, the actual moons are also in Luminova, which means that they glow at night, which is quite, it's a subtle, but it's a nice little detail which brings the watch to life at night. So there's all of these different layers. In the way that the watch has multiple layers, the reasons have multiple layers as well.
Well, congratulations. It's really a beautiful, beautiful watch. So, Daniela, why do you think this is a collector's item?
So for us, one of the challenges that we had with starting an educational platform was that our history really is producing watches. As an educational platform, we cannot do that. We are entrusted by nearly all of the houses within the industry. They trust us to go in. They show us things that they would not show anybody else. And we cannot produce a watch. This fantastic opportunity gave us the chance to not only, in it through a collaboration with Frédérique Constant, to produce a timepiece that speaks through us as Peter said, a homage to watchmaking, historical watchmaking, but also to our origins. So for us, this timepiece is the first collaboration that the Naked Watchmaker has ever done. And that in itself is very important to the whole history. But also, this timepiece is the last watch collaboration that involves myself and Peter. So it is an amazing timepiece, which we both think has come up beautifully, and a fantastic piece too, and a great story.
Yeah, well, thank you, Daniela. It's really a beautiful timepiece. Maybe Peter. So why should we buy this watch?
There are some timepieces which become collectible in time, okay, with the passage of time. And this one, as Daniela said, this is the first watch that the Naked Watchmaker will have ever made. As such, it marks a sort of a moment in history. It marks a very special collaboration. There are only 99 examples of this model that will be manufactured. And I think that even on that base alone, you have something which has scarcity, which is representative of high quality watchmaking, which is a complication. And the final aesthetic, the final watch, has never been executed in this way ever before. So that's special. It's special on a human level, a technical level, and on an aesthetic level.
Thank you very much for sharing all these details, and to Roland here as well. So now maybe let's speak about the future. So for the Naked Watchmaker, what are the next steps?
Well, the next steps are all evolving. We continue our mission to show and to share the timepieces that this industry produces, and that we're very honoured to be allowed to go in and take them apart, photograph them. Along that, we also have online courses that we are now producing so that collectors and enthusiasts can really improve their knowledge, and we can share and get another level. With regards to our collaborations, there will be future collaborations with other independent watchmakers, and that is very exciting. For now, Peter is our technical expert, and the future brings a lot of exciting things.
Great. Well, thank you very much for sharing all this insight. Also, first of all, for having created such a beautiful watch, which really, I think, brings the mission and the objectives of the Naked Watchmaker into a watch, into the Frédérique Constant Perpetual calendar. So yeah, wish a lot of success.
I think we would both like to also thank Frédérique Constant for actually having given us the opportunity to embark on this project. And it began 2 years ago when things were very difficult for everybody. Yet we arrive here at this point now with something which is quite exceptional.
Yeah, absolutely. Without Frédérique Constant, you know, this is our mission in a watch. We have shown the inside. We've expanded it. We've developed it. We've put our mark on it, and that's just been an amazing experience. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, Peter.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Roland.
No problem.